Everyone. I see we've got some folks with us. Let us know in the chat where in the world you are joining us from this evening. Let us know what type of writer you are as well. What genre of book do you write? We're just going to give folks time to arrive here. We'll get started in a minute or two. I want to respect everyone's time, but definitely want to give folks a moment to get the technology worked out and to get all logged in. So over on the right-hand side of your screen, if you're on a desktop, you should see the chat there. So go ahead in the chat. Let us know where you are in the world and what type of writing you do. I see we've got Andrew, we've got Calvin and Cami. Ken is here, Phil, Sherry. Let us know, folks, where you are from.
Just so you know, Kevin, I've got signal excellent and then signal bad, and it's flipping back and forth. So if I just disappear, then I'll struggle to get back in. But it's literally flipping back and forth, back and forth. So I'm not sure what that means.
Well, that's a great opportunity, great segue to tell people if you are having any trouble with the webinar, just go ahead and log out and then log back in, and that should solve most of your problems. I had a television growing up in the 90s in my basement where my room was in the basement. I had this TV, and every once in a while the image would start to go like and to fix it, I just hit it upside the side of the television, and then the picture would fix. Yep. And it's like 30 years later, and there's not really like turning the computer back on and off is not all that different than hitting the TV upside. Yep. So I feel like we haven't evolved that much in our problem solving.
We're less violent, I suppose, but still the same problem. It's got to unplug, wait, count to 3, plug it back in. Oh, yeah, it's working now.
Exactly. So we've got Phil from Bozeman. We've got Andrew from Virginia. Calvin is in Chattanooga. I don't know where that is. Do you know where Chattanooga is?
No, but it sounds... I feel like we should, though. Doesn't it feel like...
It sounds Canadian, right?
It does a little.
Sounds like 2 Canadian coaches should know where Chattanooga is. Calvin, give us some more direction where you are. We've got Sherry from Manitoba. Hey, Sherry. Great to see you here.
Tennessee. Okay, that makes sense.
Calvin says, don't slap your laptop, Kevin. Probably good advice. Probably good advice. And we got Cami writing sci-fi, fantasy, and romance. All right, folks. Well, let's get started. I want to welcome all of you to the webinar. I am author and writing coach Kevin T. Johns.
And I'm Kimberley Grabas. I'm a branding and marketing strategist.
And we are both big believers in the power of writing retreats to elevate your author journey. You've made a great decision to spend your Friday night with us. We're going to have lots of fun, as we always do on my webinars. But on today's training in particular, we're going to be exploring why writing retreats are more than just a getaway. They're a powerful tool for creative and personal growth. And this probably isn't a surprise for you. You've probably heard about people going on writing retreats and really having transformative experiences. So I didn't want to just go on the presentation today and have Kimberley and I tell you about how great how great retreats are. You probably already know that. So what I wanted to talk about today is really look at the science behind it. So we know writing retreats are these magical experiences, but why? What does the research and science actually tell us about why these sorts of experiences are so profoundly helpful for writers like you and I?
Oh, okay. And back to me.
Over to you. I should do like a walkie-talkie. Over to Kim.
Over to me. Okay. So, and I shouldn't be surprised. I have looked at the slide deck. So anyway, just in case anybody doesn't know who I am, I'm Kimberley Grabas. So I am a author, marketing, and brand strategist. I'm the founder of yourwriterplatform.com. So it's like kind of the go-to resource for authors struggling to gain visibility in a crowded market. And I have degrees in both business and psychology, actually. So over 22 years in sales and marketing, and basically a purpose-driven passion to help writers build an audience and brand around their work. So.
And I'm Kevin Johns. I'm also an author, like most of us on this webinar. I've written over a dozen books. I have a master's degree in English literature, and I've helped thousands of authors over the last decade craft unputdownable novels. I'm the founder of the Writers Craft Summit, and I host the Writing Coach podcast that has over 200 episodes. And I like to think of myself as a unique merging of high and low culture. I love Virginia Woolf, but I also love Stan Lee and Spider-Man comic books. And so I think I bring a fairly unique and diverse interest to my coaching, and allows me to really coach commercial fiction authors in a dynamic way where I understand both what James Joyce was trying to achieve with Ulysses, as well as why Jerry Springer was so great in the late 90s. So let's talk about writing retreats. Why do they matter? Why is this something that we would be talking about today? Well, writing retreats require intense mental focus, but daily distractions constantly pull us away from our creative work. Let me know in the chat if you ever feel like life's distractions are pulling you away from your art, like jobs, or say politics, or family, or health issues. All of these things are grabbing our attention and trying to get our attention away from our writing. Writing retreats are the opposite of that. They're designed specifically to get all those distractions out of the way and to really immerse you in the writing process. I see Andrew saying, yes, big time, right? I think more than ever, we are distracted by so many things, technology, obviously, but many other things as well. Now, why is that immersive experience so important, and why is getting away from those distractions essential to making progress in your writing? Well, according to attention restoration theory, stepping away from the routine, especially into natural and calm environments, restores depleted mental resources, sharpening your focus and your creativity. So, writing retreats offer a dedicated space where each day is structured around your writing goals without all those distractions that get in the way of everyday life. Kim, is that something that resonates with your experience or the clients you've worked with?
Oh, absolutely. I would say probably if it's not the most common challenge, it's right up there for just writers trying to find sort of that meaningful focus time for the writing, right? So they might get bits and pieces here. If if they're really keen, they'll get it first thing in the morning, or they'll write during, kid pickup or something at school. But it's prioritizing it and then finding that space that they can carve out. One of the hardest things that they have to do. So definitely hear about it.
Let me know in the chat if anyone has read Deep Work by Cal Newport. I sent out an email to my folks this week saying it's actually one of the books that's had the most profound experience or impact on me as both a writer and as a writing coach. So it's interesting. You'd think the biggest impact would be a book about craft, a book about coaching, but in fact, it was Newport's book about focus that really changed the way I thought about productivity and about how to effectively work in today's modern, distracting world. In our busy lives, deep focus time is really rare, but it's crucial for meaningful work. And I think all of us here want to produce meaningful work, not just hack out a book, but create a book that stands the test of time. And that's why at retreats, you get that experience of deep work, which is to say, long, distraction free stretches that lead to intense immersion in your writing. Now, neuroscience tells us that this kind of focus allows the brain to enter a state you folks have probably heard of called flow. And the thing about flow state is where we've reached this point of being fully engaged in what we're doing, and the ideas start to come naturally or even feel magical. Adam Sandler tells this great joke about Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. He tells the story about how Kareem Abdul-Jabbar once had a basketball game where he scored like 80 points in the game. And then Adam Sandler does this bit where he's like, can you imagine the other guys on the team? They're like, hey, Kareem, I was open that last shift. You got 80 points already. You think you could give me a pass? And the other guy's like, Steve over there, he at least got 2 points, but that was because you bounced it in off his head, But that joke was based around a real thing that really happened in a basketball game. And how can like one human being score 80 points in a basketball game? Well, that's flow state. Right? That's what athletes are going for. That's what artists are trying to achieve. It's when you get into that magical space where every ball goes in the basket, where the words are just flowing onto the page. And retreats are a place where we can structure our time and structure our environment to specifically encourage moving towards that flow state. And of course, that flow state becomes super elusive in everyday life, where we're constantly being distracted and we're not able to focus on our writing. But that flow is utterly essential to both creativity and productivity. Kim, what's your take on flow state? Is that something you find yourself getting into or experiencing?
Well, yeah, when you do experience it, it's a dream, right? So it does take a bit of, I think what happens is you get better at it, right? So experiences like this, like we all know that, when you work or try to work in those small sort of interrupted blocks of time, it's like, trying to build a sandcastle as the tide comes in, right? So there's a little bit of progress maybe, but it feels temporary, it feels fragmented, it feels like you're really kind of not getting anywhere. But at a retreat, then you've got time, it's set aside where your creative energy isn't being split, right? It's making it possible to reach insights or have those light bulb moments that can, otherwise it just stays buried in all the daily noise. So the better you get at experiencing that flow state and then recognizing how you got into it in the first place, what were the triggers, how did you get yourself there, then I think you get better at getting into that flow state. And so it's not just about being in a quiet place, so that's part of it, at a retreat, that's part of it, but it's also about knowing that each day is protected time at a retreat, right? Like, so you don't necessarily have that at home. You may, and if you do, that's probably one of the reasons, that some people can do a lot more work in a lot less time, right? They just are better at protecting their time. And it's kind of like, at a retreat, it's kind of like giving yourself permission to honor your writing, right? And that's what I'm seeing a lot with authors. They'll say they prioritize it, but it doesn't really get prioritized. It is a priority, but somehow in the schedule, it doesn't actually translate to a priority, right? So that's usually my first question is, do you prioritize it? Because you can call it whatever you want. You can say it's important, but if you don't actually treat it as important and then block off that time, or, like if you can imagine just being at a retreat, say, and then for once everything else falls away and you're able to actually just sink into the rhythm with your work and let it unfold without, having to stop because someone is asking a question or someone requires your attention, or, got to go pick up the kids or whatever. And so that kind of flow state or focus state can stay with you even after the retreat ends, because you've learned then how to bring it forth and how to get more depth and discipline and clarity on your crafting career, and then bring that back with you from the retreat. So I think it's critical. And I do think it takes some practice and some getting to know yourself, having the time to explore that so that you can actually translate that back in the real world.
Yeah, I know so many of my clients who go through experiences where they're like, okay, I'm ready to sit down and be creative. And they're like, oh, wait, first I've got to get dinner made. And they're like, oh, wait, then I need to feed the kids dinner. Oh,
Yeah.
now I need to do all those dishes. Oh, the laundry needs to be doing, and it's 11:45 at night, and now suddenly they're trying to sit down and get some work done. And sometimes that's the only way to get work done, but that's also what makes a retreat so special, where someone else is cooking the food. You're not worried about the laundry, you're not worrying
Yeah.
about the dishes. You're able to actually sit down and say, hey, I'm going to eat a great meal, and then I'm going to get some work done.
And you're not even feeling guilty about it, because you really don't, it's not your responsibility. So you can truly kind of let go and just say, okay. And there's nothing pulling at you. It truly is just, now, if you can maximize that, that's fantastic, right? That's the goal, is when you're at the retreat, is to truly allow yourself to immerse yourself. Well, oh, there we go. Immerse yourself in the environment.
How's that for a transition? Look at
Perfect.
that. And so what else can a retreat offer? Well, it can offer an immersive, creative environment. And I think sometimes we forget about the impact that the environment can have on creativity. In fact, I interviewed, well, I'm not going to pull the book down because I think a Star Wars figure will fall on my head if I try to do that. But I interviewed the author of a book called My Creative Space by Donald Ratner. And the entire book was just about how different environments can create different creative impulses and can help support creative thinking and new ideas. And it's not just Ratner. Research has consistently shown that a new setting triggers the brain's novelty center, which heightens awareness and sparks fresh ideas. This is actually the experience many people go through when they say they buy like a green car. And then suddenly, everywhere they look, everyone has a green car, or they become pregnant, and suddenly, everywhere they look is a pregnant lady. This is because when new, exciting things happen, they spark energy in our brain, and our energy likes it and goes looking for more examples of it. So it's not that there's more green cars or more pregnant ladies, it's that your brain is now excited about that idea, and so it's seeking out that like rush of endorphins of like, oh, another pregnant lady, oh, another car like mine. And this is just an example of how a new environment, a new thing can excite you, can spark fresh ideas, can literally get like the neurons in your brain going, right? So if you're feeling blocked or if you're feeling burned out or drained, try moving to a new environment. I just thought Deborah saying we're a pregnant lady driving a green car. Exactly. Now, writers often find that being in a new place, surrounded by nature and beauty and simply peace, unlocks perspectives and inspiration. A retreat set in a calm, beautiful location provides exactly this kind of immersion, creating an ideal backdrop for creative breakthroughs and new ideas. And I think there's different kinds of retreats, obviously. And I think most people are kind of familiar with those kind of conference style retreats where there's a big room and people are on the stage with a microphone talking and you're getting really jazzed up and coming out excited. I mean, we're talking about something different here, right? We're talking about something peaceful, relaxing, not necessarily about getting all jammed up because the guy on the stage is shouting loud. And instead, spending some time with ourselves away from the excitement, away from the noise, and focused on our storytelling and focused on our prose and focused on our author careers. Because it's not just about writing, it's also about the career that we're building as authors. What, Kimberly, I feel like this one you're going to have some good thoughts on, because I think you are someone who very carefully kind of curates her workspace and understands the relationship environment can have with creativity. Am I right about that?
Yes, yes. Especially for, I mean, creative people tend to have, there's sort of a range of how they like to work, right? So everybody knows the stories about the creative people who have the desk that's upside down and they're hanging off the couch with it. Everything has to be, they know exactly where it is, but nobody else would, kind of thing. Or you need to have visually everything. I'm the type that I like visual stuff. So everything's got to be stuck up on the wall somewhere so I can see it and feel it and imagine it, at all times. Some people like to work in, the busy Starbucks and stuff like that. That's not really me. I think we get good at adapting to the environment we get. So if all you get is it for that little bit of peace is, a busy Starbucks or, something like that, some sort of co-working environment, or even, in your car on your lunch break or something. We can adapt to it, but ideally, environment plays such a big role in kind of shaping our mindset even. So if we step into a space that's intentionally designed to spark creativity, and I feel that, like, when I can tell the difference between, well, all of us, I guess, could feel it. If you go into a sort of a stark office with the bad lighting and one thing, that's where you kind of go to die. Your soul just whoop. But if you get even just a little bit of that environment where, creative things happen here, the colors are different, everything just feels different. And when you're surrounded by that, then it's kind of rich with inspiration. So it gives your mind permission, I think, to kind of wander, to play, and kind of approach ideas from angles that might not surface in, kind of the familiar everyday stuff, or the more stark, soulless places. So really, I think the environment itself becomes kind of a creative partner, right? You have the mental room to just sort of explore the possibilities. And then you can, kind of feel yourself, you're more open to ideas. Something might have been circling around for months, like maybe even years. You've had this idea, just it's there, but you can't pull it forward until, finally you're either in a place that sparks that, you're with people that sparks that, the whole environment is ready and ripe for that kind of creative thought. And then kind of a subtle shift can help overcome all those creative blocks, or many of them, and kind of boost your productivity. So yeah, I'm wholeheartedly on board for things that they just add to the whole experience, right? So you can have the okay, I'm going to have quiet time, I'm going to work, I'm going to do my thing. But candles, I've seen authors do all sorts of different things just to kind of bring them to that space. And again, like talking about the flow, right? Some things will help you slowly or more quickly get into that state and stay there longer. And if you know what those are, and if for me personally, it is things like that, the environment, immersing yourself, and knowing that creativity is happening here. That's the whole reason I'm going. Everybody else is going for the same reason. So that just allows you to kind of return, to the craft with new excitement, inspiration, creative direction, all those things. So
I love
wholeheartedly agree.
I love how you contrasted that with, like, cubicle life, office life. I mean, so true. And in so many of the writers I work with, writing is their passion, writing is their hobby, but they also want to make it a career so they don't have to go to the cubicle every day, or they don't have to work the cash register, right? And while they can't always quit their day job tomorrow, I think something about a writing retreat is like, you get to go be an artist for 5 days or whatever it is, right? It's like, yeah, maybe you can't quit the job tomorrow, but maybe you go there and you are the artist you want to be for 5 days, and you're one step closer to leaving that drab cubicle. You're one step closer
Yeah.
to not having to drive in rush hour traffic every morning, and really being able to get up and write every day, like so many people want to
Well,
do. So
yeah, and it speaks to that. I mean, there's so much, I don't know what it is, romanticism, idealism that people tend to have with writers, the sort of cottage in the woods, and they're just, they're coming up with their the most creative work. And there is this feeling that that's what it is required from artistic work, right? There's the muse will only be out, and I guess in that cabin in those woods or whatever. But it's kind of true. It kind of it speaks to the whole process, I guess you could say. And many people, like I said, you can manage. A lot of people manage in the environments they're given. But if you really want to flourish, even just small dose of this kind of stuff, where you can pull yourself out, imagine, and live that life, right? You get to experience that sort of that ideal, that idea that we have of what an artistic or a writer lives like, where you can experience that and see, does that fit? Does it feel as good as you think it's going to? And
yeah,
it usually is amazing. So yeah.
yeah, totally. How about this one? Support
Mm.
from peers, right? I mean, this is something I talk a lot about with all of my clients. And it's funny because it's like the complete opposite. A lot of that idea of going out into the woods. No one is ever like, I'm going to go out into the woods with 6 people who equally care about art like I do, so that we can support and inspire each other. There's this myth of the lone wolf solitary artist where you have to go out there and go alone. And I think this comes from the fact that, like, honestly, books themselves, the fact that they throw the author's name on the front and they don't list a single other person on there perpetuates this myth that writing is a solitary thing, and that those who are successful are all self-made authors who did it all on their own. And of course, everyone needs support, everyone needs a network, everyone needs peers. Those sorts of connections are invaluable, particularly for artists, because a lot of the time artists are living different lives than other people. They're not necessarily, doing the 9 to 5 or whatnot like everyone else is. And so being able to connect with other people who take risks or have dreams or who are passionate or who believe in the power of the written word or who even just care about books still, right? I mean, it's not like we're on the cutting edge of media technology with books, there's other stuff out there. The people who care about books are more and more special people. And so when you can go away on a group retreat and get those perspectives from other people and learn in a group environment, you just get that deeper growth, stronger inspiration. And something I don't think gets talked about enough, I didn't even put it in the slide here, but it's fun. Like, this stuff, we are at our best creatively when we're having fun doing it. And yeah, it can be fun to work on your own for a while, but at some point, you kind of want to have a glass of wine with someone and laugh and have some fun as well. And I think that's a really important part of creativity. And in fact, social learning theory suggests that sharing experiences with others allows us to gain insights and feel motivated. By surrounding yourself with others who are dedicated to writer's craft, you can create a feedback loop of support, encouragement, and accountability. Retreats create plenty of opportunities to connect, discuss, and share your work in a supportive, growth oriented environment. I went to leadership camps in high school. I was the president. I was student council president, and we got to go to these different like leadership camps, and we would go to this for like a weekend. So like Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday, and you go and you learn what it means to be a leader as a teenager and what it means to support others and all of that. But the thing was, by the end of the weekend, just those 3 days, you're crying and you're like, I'll never see you. You're my best friend. Like, it is amazing when you get the right type of people in the right type of environment, supporting each other and working together. Like, you can form lifelong friendships. You can form real supportive relationships really quickly in the right environment. And I would suggest a writing retreat is the exact type of place where those sort of peer relationships and support networks can be found and forged and can continue on long after the retreat is over.
Yeah. See, and for me, I approach this one a little bit differently, because normally, because I'm an introvert, and for many of the writers, or especially those of us that identify as introverts, the idea of connecting with new people can seem like unappealing would be the gentle way to put it. Most people are like, oh, but it's entirely different. Like, in a retreat setting, something special happens, right? It's and not just you're surrounded by people who understand the writing life, right? Like you're saying, Kevin, they're not, these aren't just other people. These are people who have lived the life, have the same sort of, dreams and desires and trauma that, that we have trying to live this life. Right. And so they share the same passion for storytelling. Like you said, we're almost weird at this point with the books and the things, but it is a unique form of camaraderie it's energizing, but it's also really like deeply affirming. You feel like, okay, there are people like me. It's not that weird. And it's kind of a different form of your typical social interactions, right? Because for me, that would be very draining. Like the group, like the thing you were describing at first, the conference, where it's like the guys yelling at you from the stage and you just feel like I should have probably done more with my life and I don't know I have it, right? So that, I don't find that. And then there's people everywhere and everybody wants to talk, and for me, not enjoyable. Not that I don't learn from it, and not that you don't force yourself to do that sometimes to get that experience, but this is not that. This is, we've kept, this kind of idea in our head that writers are, like you said, the lone wolf, the introverts. But there are moments in time when it really is beneficial for a writer to get that, the understanding, the connections that form naturally without the pressure to perform or constantly engage. You don't have to do that at retreats. And then again, these people understand your challenges, your frustrations, your triumphs. Like, they get when something is a big win, like you finally found the right word, they get you, they understand that. And so it's in these kind of settings, in the retreat type settings, where the support goes, kind of beyond just encouragement. It's actually, that's another thing that kind of boosts that creative energy. And then you kind of feel like, okay, well, I can do that, or they've done that, because you've lived in your own bubble for so long that you're not entirely sure where, like, what can I do, or what is possible, right? You see some other stuff, but you don't really hear it. You don't see it in real life. So you're not entirely sure, okay, is this just the internet stuff or is this actually how other writers do things? And so as introverts, speaking as an introvert, these shared sort of, we'll call them purposeful moments, right? These very, poignant moments can be particularly meaningful because they let us connect without feeling drained. It's a different kind of connection and a different kind of boost that normally introverts don't. It doesn't either appeal to them, or it doesn't work for them. But retreats are, it's a different animal, and it works very, very well to boost the creativity of even introverted people who generally prefer to stay home or not with other people. So that's another aspect.
Yeah, and it's not like you being an introvert in the publishing space are a minority, right? I mean,
Right.
so many writers I work with consider themselves introverts, and
Mhm.
um, and so I think there's something here. You used the word intentionality earlier, and it's like I think that writing retreat intentional space of safety creates an environment where someone who would not go out to the club and try to make friends, who would much rather sit at home and read a book, can go out, can get that excitement of new experiences and new people, but within a safely controlled environment where they
Yes.
know everyone is there for the same reason, to work on their writing and to support one another.
Mhm. Exactly.
Something else that you can get at a writing retreat is that professional guidance and coaching, which is super, super important for creatives, and not just creatives, professionals in all spaces. I don't know if any of you are executives in big companies or if you know executives, but they all have business coaches, they all have executive coaches. And the funny thing I always think about is like, Michael Jordan, LeBron James, Wayne Gretzky, the gymnast who won the gold medal at the Olympics. All of these people have coaches supporting them, cheering them on, mentoring them, caring about them. And this is like common across the board. And I think, again, we have this myth of writers having to do it alone. And I think there's that much of a step that kind of authors have to make to kind of say, hey, I could benefit from some help. I could maybe use some advice. How maybe I don't have to figure it all out on my own. And the really interesting thing is the studies that I looked at for this presentation were showing that mentorship not only accelerates skill acquisition, so you learn things faster, but it also boosts confidence and self-efficacy, which are vital qualities to writers. And again, goes back to those introverts, right? Who maybe don't have that confidence, who don't necessarily feel like they know what they're doing all the time. But you get a mentor. Here's a great example. I was working with a client this week, and I told her her scene was, or her chapter, she was a nonfiction author. I said her chapter was really good. And she's like, but is it really? And I was like, well, I've told you when things aren't good, right? She's like, yeah. And I was like, well, I was telling the truth when they're not good so that you would believe me when they are good. And suddenly she's like, oh, thank goodness. Like, that feels so good to hear, to know that that you as an expert have told me I'm going in the right direction and I can trust you, right? And like, she didn't know if
Mhm.
it or not. She needed me to say, yeah, this is great. On to the next chapter, And when you're going it alone, you just don't have that sounding board. You don't have that support. You don't have someone who's read 150 manuscripts and can, sees things again and again, the similar problems. And retreats can really offer personalized and tailored coaching, something different from, say, these online courses that a lot of people have access to. But with a retreat, whether it's polishing your prose or structuring your plot or refining your book marketing or author platform strategy, you can get that bespoke advice. It's not the advice that works generally for the most people. Instead, it's the advice for you, for where you're at in your book, in your career. And it's not that general advice, it's actionable advice. It's the things, Kimberly or Kevin or whoever your mentor is can say, do this, this, and this. These are the 3 things that you need to execute on next week to move your writing journey forward, to get that book published, to get the next book written, to grow your platform, to sell more books. And these are all, things that when you're in a room with someone, not on a webinar, Kimberly and I are going to do our absolute best on this webinar to share information, but it's not the same thing as sitting in a room with Sherry and Andrew and Deb and all these people on the webinar right now and just having a conversation about where they're at with their career and what their goals are, because not everyone has the same goals with their writing and with their career. And so personalization, being able to sit and when I think about writing retreats, I think about like the conversations that happen over dinner, right? Or in the evening or over breakfast or whatever. Like, it's not that classroom experience. It's general conversations, hanging out with people for a couple days and really getting able to get that kind of wisdom out of them.
Mhm. I couldn't agree more, Kevin. And you know what? I've had that experience too sometimes where it's just the casual conversation with someone um that's sort of because so my job, I guess you could say, has shifted a little bit. Initially I started I've been doing this for years. So initially it was more about this sort of hands off. Here's a course, off you go, like you said, sort of a general, this will work for the majority, and best of luck kind of thing. And then it's kind of shifted into a lot more consulting. And then now it's more coaching. So it's much deeper conversations and work with people, which flushes out things that you never really, you wouldn't know, or there's no way to learn that until you get deep into the weeds with people and figure out, okay, this is where you're getting stuck. This is where the problem is, which is 3 steps further back than they said it was, because they didn't recognize that this is happening because of these, this that happened over here, a decision made much earlier in the process. So in some ways, just the more casualness of this, you can even get a coach, but having this sort of casual access to coaches at these retreats is sort of the thing. And like you said, most of the work, most of the light bulb moments will happen over breakfast or when you go for a walk in the woods, or go do something that's outside of what you meant to do. It's not going to be our slideshows, and it's not going to be things like this that is necessarily going to do it. And I don't know how many times in the last few months now where I've been talking to clients and they're like, wait, what? And I have said something that I don't recognize as important because it's something I know that they don't know. And I don't know that until they go, wait, what? Say that again. And then it changes everything for them. And you just have to come at it from a few different ways for different people to get it or to apply it or to integrate it into the whatever it is that they're thinking or the process. So that kind of stuff is very, very important. Very rare to get that kind of support outside of a retreat, right? Even if you were to get coaching, it's not necessarily the same thing because, again, you may not be face to face. You might not be just as relaxed. So there's all different things that come into play. And even in most writing retreats, the focus is often solely on the writing, right? Like if it's a writing retreat, it's on the writing. But as you know, for me, as someone who spent years helping authors build their platforms and brands, I can tell you firsthand that the work doesn't end when the writing does. So how you bring your work to the world is just as important, but it starts way at the beginning when you're still writing, when you're still contemplating, when we're still thinking. So those are other things that you can get, or at least you would hopefully want to get at a retreat. So a retreat that offers that dual approach. So strengthening your craft and building that sort of sustainable path for your work to be read and appreciated means that you would walk away like as a much more skillful writer, but also much more, like we're saying, confident and capable, ready to share what you create because you know why you did it and the reasoning behind everything. So yeah, I mean, I think it's such a unique pathway to a lot of this stuff that you can't necessarily get in any other avenue or any other venue.
So true.
Yeah.
Here's something that I think is so important, and I think increasingly so in recent years. Like I think about like a decade ago, and everyone was just like, social media, the world's amazing, everyone's going to connect and everything's going to be wonderful. And after a decade of seeing the fallout of social media, I think a lot of people are like, you know what, I'm going to focus more on myself than my Facebook wall, and I'm going to focus more on my health than I am on what's on the Twitter feed. And the reality is creativity thrives in a well-rested, balanced mind, not in a stressed out, burned out writer. And I there's a lot of great things about National Novel Writing Month. Anything that gets people writing is great. But I also think taking someone who has little experience or maybe a little experience in writing and telling them they need to write 1,800 words a day for a month or they've failed is an absolute recipe for burnout. That's not the approach to writing I recommend for the folks that I work with, because I work with people who don't want to write one book. They want to write 20 books. They want to have a career. And in order to have a career, you have to develop sustainable practices. And I'm sorry, but NaNoWriMo is largely unsustainable for most people. And so taking that time to really monitor your health and your energy levels and to take time to ensure that wellness activities are part of your writing practice will allow you to relax and recharge in a way that's going to allow you to write more. I sometimes my writers are like, Kevin, should I write another chapter tomorrow? And I'm like, you know what? It might be better to go for a walk tomorrow than write the next chapter, because they're so close. I do this with myself sometimes. There's so much I want to achieve. There's so many writers I want to help that I'm like constantly riding that line of burnout, right? And even with myself, I'm like, I have to remind myself the best way to help people is by being healthy and well rested. I'm not going to help my clients be better writers if I'm stressed and burned out and not thinking straight and not getting good sleep and not eating good food. And so taking that time to ensure that health and wellness is part of your writing practice is so important. Mindfulness and physical relaxation are proven to reduce cortisol. Do you know what cortisol is, Kim?
Yeah.
It's like the hormone that wakes you up in the morning, right?
Yeah.
It's like you would sleep all day if the cortisol didn't kick in. But the problem is modern life has completely screwed up our bodies, and we're constantly releasing this stress hormone that prevents
Yeah.
us from getting good sleep, that prevents us from relaxing, and really locks up our minds. Like so often when I talk to a client who's like, I have writer's block, they don't really have writer's block. They're just like stressed out and like being too hard on themselves and are juggling 50 different things. And if we can relax and get into a more mindful state, suddenly we increase our brain's cognitive flexibility. We're able to make those connections. We're able to make those leaps and come up with original ideas and just have this greater sense of resilience in terms of, I'm not going to burn out tomorrow. I'm going to have a good idea today, and I'm going to have another good idea 2 weeks from now, right? Like it's not live or die NaNoWriMo style. It's I have a career of creativity ahead of me. And this approach to self-care It isn't just about relaxation, it's about making sustainable long-term creativity possible. And you and I have both been coaching authors for over a decade, you longer than me. So, Kim, tell me about how you've managed to find like a sustainable approach to running your own business and writing your own books and being a creative business leader.
Yeah. Well, it's at first it was hard. At first I thought, okay, this might not be something a human can do, right? And most of it came from not so much physical stuff or trying to get this done or that done. It was more the mental, like you're saying, and the comparisonitis, right? There's always somebody who is superhuman for some reason. I don't know what is up with these people, but they've got more time in the day, they can get more things done, they can write 20 books a year kind of thing, and they do it easily. And then they've also got this and that, and or having babies and they're still writing while they're delivering or whatever. And I'm thinking, what is wrong with me? This is not how I do. I'm the slowest writer. I have to look at it. I live my happy places over analysis. I like being stuck in there and thinking about things and researching things. So, there is a learning curve to understanding how, your process, how you work and those kind of things. Writing can be intense. It's deeply rewarding, I think, but without balance, like you said, it's burnout, it's self-doubt, it's basically disconnecting from the joy of it. The whole fun part of it, you basically beat with a stick. It's no longer happy. So all of that is something that I've had to learn to deal with. Now, the benefit I've had is that I've all the businesses and all the jobs that I've done, all my previous life work was also not exactly self-employed, but I'd be in sales or marketing. So I wasn't I didn't have a cubicle. I was always on my own. I was kind of always my own boss, or at least responsible for my chunk of the territory kind of thing. So I learned early on that works well for me. That doesn't work well for everybody. And everybody has to kind of feel that out for themselves, where your line is. So you're learning where your line is. I learned early on that I take on more responsibility because I like more control. So I'm okay with that. Some people, they don't want any of the responsibility and they don't want any control. They're like, okay, I'll give up the control because what's more important to me is that somebody else covers this and it's not on me. So good to know, right? And those kind of things are the kind of things that you do, like the deep dives in mindset stuff, understanding, okay, well, if these are my boundaries or this is how I work, then these are the processes that have to be in place that I can't, some things are just non-negotiable. That just has to be there. So those kind of things you learn usually when you're not under, stress and there's fire in the background and stuff, right? You learn that when you have a chance to take a minute and really do some self-reflection, do some sort of introspective work and stuff like that. And again, retreats are great for that because there's no responsibility there outside of doing the creative work, right? The rest of the time is, people are cooking food for you and making your bed and doing whatever. So you're okay with just focusing on yourself. And by doing that and learning who you are, it gets easier not to compare. So again, with branding, my whole job is really showing people how to differentiate themselves. What makes you unique? What makes you special? And many people have no idea. They really don't. And just like you were saying with your client, where she can't recognize, there's no objectivity about is this good or not. I can't even tell anymore. I've looked at it so much. People have that about themselves, about their whole identity. They're not entirely sure. Who do they write for? Why did they do it? Really, why do you do it? Because there's so much easier, ways to make a living. So why are you doing this? Why is this so important that you will cut time out of your day to do it? All of those questions kind of need to be answered, and they're really hard to do when you're still on that treadmill and working through life. So retreats, again, are those kind of things where you're taking time for yourself. It means you get not only time to recharge, I guess, but also kind of establish those patterns of self-care so that you can take that back into your everyday life. And then everything is a little bit smoother, hopefully, from that point on.
I love that idea that a retreat isn't just about escaping from the pressures of life for a little while. It's actually about going somewhere where you can set the foundation to bring
Mhm.
back to regular life and
Yeah.
establish those habits, and establish those goals, and establish those routines that allow you to be a successful and a healthy writer. I love that.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's so much of like what fuels the sustainable creativity is about remembering that you are the primary resource, right? So if you
Mhm.
forget that, then you're busy doing a bunch of other things, and the one thing that is required is on tilt, or it's not available, right? It's not fully there. So yeah, you are the top primary resource. So you've got, just like, when they always tell you in the airplane, right? Put your mask on first before you help others. It's that kind of thing. You really got to care for yourself first, and then everything will get, the process after that fact is much smoother. So if you can learn that, say at the retreat, you get that feeling again, just like practicing flow or any of the other things, you learn what it looks like, and then you can bring it back into everyday life.
Totally. And that's where the transformation happens, right?
Mhm.
Writers consistently say that the change they go through is palpable. It's a real experience. And going back to the science to try to understand that, a lot of studies on intensive learning experiences have found that significant post event improvement in creativity, productivity, and overall life satisfaction consistently happens. So, exactly like we were just talking about, it's not necessarily just about what happens at at the retreat. It's about what happens afterwards, the transformation that happens. Writers often return from retreats with renewed passion for their work, having made breakthroughs in their projects, or simply gaining a sense of clarity and purpose on their career, their goals, what they want to achieve as an author, who their audience is, like you said. Imagine finally finishing that manuscript or gaining the confidence to pursue a publication. A lot of people come out of retreats with that kind of confidence. They often create breakthroughs by providing just the right mix of environment, community, and support. And I think that's what it's all about, right, Kim? That this isn't about
Yeah.
one thing. This is about a bunch of things coming together to support writers in a very specific way.
Yeah. It changes. It's like a renewed sense of purpose, but it's also a shift in how they can see themselves and their work, right? So you shift that entire identity. It moves um, to the positive. So yeah, it's a basically the transformation. It's not just about what you created or what you learned. So when you're there, it's not just, okay, I got taught this and I learned that and I made a friend or whatever. It's really more about the writer you become in the process. So again, like you said, what you take forward from the whole experience.
Definitely. All right. Let's review a little bit of what we've talked about on today's webinar, the science and the magic of writing retreats. Here's some of the takeaways. Attention restoration theory has observed how natural and calm environments restore depleted mental resources and improve mental clarity. Establishing a flow state boosts creativity, allowing for deeper insights and progress on complex tasks. Environmental changes activate creativity, as seen in studies where novel surroundings led to better problem solving and idea generation. Group settings enhance individual skill development and foster intrinsic motivation, that self efficacy we were talking about. Research highlights that mentorship and coaching role has plays a big role in boosting creative output, enhancing confidence, and accelerating learning. And mindfulness practices have been shown to improve creative problem solving and reduce stress, which is vital for sustained creativity. And finally, immersive experiences have measurable positive impacts on creative output, on and both short and long term goal completion. It's not about just what happens on the retreat, it's about what that retreat means for you and your author career. So, with all of that said, Kimberly and I are super excited to invite all of you to join us at the Ink and Impact Writers Retreat this January 2025 from January 15th to 19th. It's an exclusive and all inclusive writing retreat at Manor de la Forêt, just north of Ottawa, Canada. At Ink and Impact, we're going to blend introspective, creative work, that's the ink part of our title, with actionable business strategies. That's the impact to help you grow as a writer and as an author entrepreneur. Here's what you can expect from Ink and Impact. This retreat is designed by Kimberly and I to help you rejuvenate, refocus, and transform your writing practice in an inspiring, supportive, and cozy environment. The Ink and Impact Writers Retreat offers everything that we discussed in today's science-based discussion. One, dedicated writing time. Two, an inspiring location. Three, peer support. Four, expert feedback and mentorship on your writer's craft technique from me. Expert feedback and mentorship on your author branding and your book marketing strategy from Kimberly, and plenty of self-care opportunities to recharge and rejuvenate. Our location is the Manor de la Forêt. This is a photo of it here. It's a tranquil escape from everyday life in Canada's national capital region. Experience Manor de la Foret's beautiful natural surroundings, which offer peace, quiet, and comfort. This is not a downtown shouting from the stage retreat. This is a cozy location with just us. We have booked the entire location. This is going to be an absolutely perfect retreat for uninterrupted writing, reflection, and creative growth for you this January. Who's this retreat for? Well, it's ideal for writers seeking a distraction free environment to work on their craft. Whether you need a creative reset, a boost in productivity, or deeper connections with fellow writers, this retreat is for you. Here's some highlights of what is going to happen. You're going to get 3 full days and 2 half days of creativity and wellness. All inclusive accommodations, including gourmet meals. So, rooms and food, it's all included in the package. You're going to get tons of quiet writing sessions for focused work, plus group coaching workshops led by Kimberly and myself. All of this is going to be focused on nurturing a balanced and productive retreat experience for all of you. Here's some of the benefits you can anticipate from attending Ink and Impact. Transform your writing and marketing practice. Boost productivity in a focused setting. Tap into new levels of creativity and flow. Connect deeply with a supportive writing community. Learn from experienced mentors and set the foundation for long-term success in January 2025. Every element of this retreat is designed to support your lasting and long-term growth as an author, sorry. So when you join, you're going to get a retreat experience specifically curated for writers just like you. A daily schedule of wellness, writing, and coaching workshops, all inclusive accommodations and amenities, delicious meals cooked on site by a chef, drinks and snacks throughout the day, resources for both personal and professional growth, and the time and space to be the writer you know you can be. So I am going to turn on an offer in the chat that will take you over to the info page for Ink and Impact where you can get signed up. If you're ready to dive into a transformative experience, Kimberly and I would absolutely love for you to join us in Ottawa this January 2025. We have sold some of the rooms already. Sherry, who is on the webinar, is one of our attendees. Deb, I believe we are going to get you in attendance as well. And Deb, that means there's actually only 6 spots left if you take that one. So folks, there is room for only 10 writers in total. This is an intimate, close workshop setting and retreat where Kimberly and I want to really get to know you and work closely with you at the retreat. So spots are going to go fast. There are only 7 left, 6 if Deb gets on board. And this is a really affordable retreat. It's a one-time payment of $2,700 American. Or if you do want to split it up into 2 payments, it's 2 payments of $1,500. And that covers all 5 days of the retreat, all of your room accommodations, food, workshops, coaching, and an incredible focused environment to get the writing done that you know you want to get done and to set up your author journey and your career for 2025. That's one of the reasons why I was insisting that we host this retreat in January. I want to start the year strong. I want all of you to start the year setting a foundation for success in 2025. I want you to spend 5 days focused on your writing, focused on your author branding and your marketing strategy so that 2025 can just absolutely blow 2024 out of the water for you in terms of career progress, in terms of craft development, in terms of marketing and branding skill development, and ultimately book sales. Because if we don't sell books, we're not reaching readers. We're not making that impact that we want to make. And so I really encourage all of you to check out Ink and Impact. Kimberly and I would absolutely love to have you there. I'll share my works cited page quickly here so you can screenshot it if you want it, just so you know I'm not making up the science. And with that said, let's go ahead and open it up for questions. Kimberly, I've shrunk you. Let's see if I can get, there we go.
There I am.
Any questions in the chat? Let us know if you have any questions about Ink and Impact or about writing retreats in general and some of the science that we talked about on today's presentation. So Sherry's looking forward to it. Deb's looking forward to it, which sounds like there's only 6 spots left. So folks, if you are considering this, now is the time to get on board. Something else to think about is tax implications. So for those of you who are already author businesses and you do need to get some expenses done at the end of the year, this retreat can be a great opportunity to get some of that finances in order from a tax perspective.
And Deborah's asking if there's going to be recording, and there will be, right, Kevin?
Yeah, definitely, for sure.
Okay.
All right. Andrew is interested. Yeah, for sure, Andrew. We will reach out. And Deb's asking which airport. I believe it's called the Ottawa International Airport. And then I will be taking everyone from the airport to the Manor de la Forêt. So the Ottawa airport is in the south of the city. The retreat location is in the north of the city. So we've got a little bit of a drive. But the cool thing is that drive is right through Ottawa. And so while we're going from the airport to the retreat location, you're going to get to see Canada's National Capital Region. We could probably even route the trip to the retreat. So we drive right through downtown Ottawa and you see the Parliament buildings, you see the Supreme Court of Canada, you see the Chateau Laurier and all of the Rideau Canal, the world's longest skating rink. You'll be able to see that as well. So we'll be driving past all of those things on the way to the retreat. Okay, Ken's going to contact us as well.
And so Calvin's asking about retreat anxiety. Yeah. So again, that's the comparisonitis type thing. None of that. You won't have to worry about that kind of stuff here. Everybody you don't have to participate in anything you don't want to participate in. You don't have to share the work. You don't have to do any of that. That's the beauty of this. It's just casual. If you do have a bit of a block or something, Kevin's making sure there's going to be wine. So there's always going to be someone who can sit down and have a chat by the fire with wine, or you can go for a walk and just reset. So the whole point of this is to reduce anxiety. Do not have retreat anxiety. Do not have any even expectations really of yourself. Just go to see what is possible. That's probably the best way to put it. Everything is possible when you go there. You get to connect with other people who will be having possibly the same ideas and obstacles or hurdles to deal with. So you can actually speak with someone. And there's certainly me, like I said, I have talked to, well, it's definitely hundreds. I don't know if it's thousands in person, but definitely hundreds of writers. And anxiety is something we usually address right away, and we just get rid of it because there's no point, right? Everybody has it. There's no point in even digging too deep into it. What you have to understand is, why is that? What is it that's holding you back? What is the one thing, in that is, and it's not necessarily that you're comparing yourself to someone else. It's because you don't feel like maybe that you're getting enough done, and you want to improve that we can do there, and we can address all that. Between Kevin and I, we've got you covered. So.
Yeah, and it also like clarify, this is not a productivity retreat. Like, this
No.
is not, you need to write 80 pages in 5 days. This is come, relax, focus on your writing, whatever that means to you. And if that's 6 pages, that's perfectly fine.
Yep.
Plus, get some coaching from me in terms of how can you tell your story most effectively. Get some coaching from Kimberley in terms of what does it mean to be an author entrepreneur? What does it mean to publish and market a book? And so this is not a retreat focused on word count or that you're going to write a book in 5 days at all. This is, you're going to spend 5 days just being an author and thinking about what that means to you and making plans for how to get better at your craft and also how to build a business around your writing. And so this is kind of like, if you want word count, do NaNoWriMo right now. This is kind of the opposite of NaNoWriMo, right? This is relax and engage and release your creativity, not pound words on a page. Yeah, you're gonna have tons of time to get writing done if you want to get writing done, but no one writes a book in 5 days. I mean, not a good book and not a novel, right? I mean, you know what? Sherry might. Sherry is like the fastest, most productive writer I've ever met. So she might prove me wrong. She might write a trilogy while we're there. But most people, are going to write, a chunk of their book while they're there, or revise a chunk of their book. And they're going to learn some great craft skills, and they're going to do some thinking about their marketing. And so when someone says to you, what did you get out of the retreat? You're not going to say 6 pages. You're going to say like 6 pages, far deeper understanding of the fundamental crafts of writer's craft, a clear plan for my book marketing strategy, or how I can build an author platform, or what my author brand is, or who I am as an author, who I'm talking to, what my message.
Yeah, who usually the biggest, well, not the biggest, one of the things too that can get you stuck with the book when you find that you're kind of stuck, it isn't the craft itself that's the issue. It's the fact, like I said, that you haven't gone back and figured out exactly who you are, what you bring to the table, and who you're writing for, right? Who is the target audience? So if sometimes you come out of the writing, because if you're, scrambling there, you're stuck in a spot there, just the shift in mindset and thinking, okay, I'm going to think about this from a different angle. I'm going to look at it from, what do my readers expect? Who is the ideal person that this is for? Because once you understand that, it gets easier to write something for that person, right? Or combine that with what you want to write, your creativity, with what they need to see. So it's just a shift. It gives you a different opportunity. And like I said, most writing retreats will only offer you the one thing. This is not, like Kevin said, this is not that. This isn't a competition, and it's not a critique. We all sit around and that's not what it's going to be. It's not going to be the negative feedback stuff. It's going to be, everything is going to be positive and encouraging. There might be a little bit of tough love. Like, there might be some things to say, okay, this is where you're getting stuck and here's why. But other than that, I mean, we're both Canadians, so it's not going to be, there's not going to be any meanness at all, right, Kevin?
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. For any retreat anxiety, just tell yourself you're going to Canada, where everyone is, we're all introverts and we're all super polite, and you're going to be fine. We're going to take good care of you, and it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. Any
And for
other questions?
Deborah, bring a lot of sweaters, bring layers. This is what I would say. Packing is going to be tricky, but layers, lots of thin layers, and then one sort of good outer layer. And I'll bring extra. So if you need something, I'll share.
Yeah, and if you're worried about airplane prices, I would recommend book your room now, because like we said, we only have a super limited number of rooms. So get your spot booked. And then just start monitoring those prices and looking for those sales on the flights, right? Because
Mm.
you don't want to wait until there's a sale on a flight, go to book the retreat, and we've sold out all of our spots, right? So book your spot now, and then play that waiting game and make sure you find that deal on the flight if you can.
Yeah.
Canadians are warm, but Canada is not. Correct. I mean, that's the other adventure for you
True.
folks here. When we talk about new environments, when we talk about new spaces and new experiences stimulating your creativity, it's winter in Canada, and that's a special, unique experience. And there's a profound beauty to it that, if you haven't experienced so far, is really, really powerful. And also really good encouragement to stay inside and do some writing. Enjoy
Yeah.
the beauty through a nice window in front of a warm fire with a cup of coffee. That's what we're going to be doing a lot of, I think, at Ink and Impact.
Or you can go for like a brisk morning walk and get the blood flowing, right? And then come back and cuddle up and get to work. Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, I did post in the chat there. It should say Kevin's launched an offer link, Ink and Impact. So if you click on that, you'll get the link to the sales page where you can learn all about the retreat and choose either the $2,700 option, one-time payment, or do the 2 payments of $1,500. If you would like to chat with either Kim or myself, we're happy to hop on a call with you and answer any detailed questions you might have about the flights or getting there, or whatnot. We can accommodate all dietary issues. So if you're vegan, if you're vegetarian, any of that, we can accommodate, and the chef will make meals specific for you, allergies and everything else as well. So those are the type of things, if you want to chat with us about, let us know. You've got my email address. Just email me and I'm happy to book a time. Actually, Kim, maybe if you can tap dance for a second, I'll grab my calendar and I'll put the link right in the chat here.
Okay. Tap dance. Here it comes. So let's see. Is anybody else? Let me just check and see if there's anybody with more questions.
I saw Deb was talking about John Cassavetes. I'm so curious what that had to do with anything. Deb, what was going? What were you guys talking? I only saw it out of the side of my eye that you were talking Cassavetes.
Oh, wasn't I don't think Deborah was talking as the devil's advocate, a John Cassavetes film, a woman. Oh, probably something you were talking about, Kevin, because you're a little bit cooler than me, so you had better stories.
No, that's a fantastic, really powerful film with a great performance in it, from a wonderful actress. So Deb's, for folks who I guess people probably don't know, Deb's a Hollywood lady. She lived and worked in Hollywood, so she's got good taste in cinema. She might be off. Yeah, she was asking about a recording, right? So okay, it's going to be a mystery what she was talking about, but I look forward to finding out.
Oh, no, she says it was about having a great experience and going back home.
Oh, okay. Yes. Lovely. All right. Well, I've posted, folks, my calendar in the chat there. If you want to book a time to chat with me or with Kimberly, you can book something there, and then, flag. If you say you only want to talk to Kimberly, just flag and let me know, and I'll I'll step away.
Or you can, my email, if you want to just email me directly, it's kim@yourwriterplatform.com. So if you do that, then I'll get back to you right away, and we can either set up a time, or if you're super shy, we can just, email back and forth. But yeah, we're open to any questions, any concerns you might have, or any worries. We can address all of that. And the key, I think, to understand is that we're making this as there's only going to be 10 attendees. So we're trying to keep it as small and as cozy and familiar as possible, right? It's not going to be, like we were saying, a big conference event where you don't know anybody and you don't get a chance to chat. But if you're even more introverted than me, there's lots of place. So you're not all on top of each other at this resort. It's actually quite beautiful. And there's a library, there's different settings where you can go to write. I wouldn't recommend outside, but you never know. We could be surprised pleasantly, and it could be lovely outside, but I doubt
Last
it.
January was actually really warm in Ottawa,
Was
so
it?
who knows what it's going to be like. We might be
Yeah.
writing outside for sure.
And I mean, that could be the thing, or the, just, you might have a buddy there that you like, that, you guys like to work together. Whatever works for everybody, that's what we're going to do. So don't feel like, I don't know if I think there was somebody before had mentioned that was a little bit concerning, that it was too private, I guess.
Mhm.
But we've got the whole place to ourselves, so we can spread out if we want. We can work together if we like. We will be doing, aside from the sort of, um, more formal coaching, I guess you could say, there's also going to be sort of one-off sessions we can do, Kevin or I, and of course we're available. We're there, and so we're kind of, what would you say, that an encaptured environment, so you can grab us whenever you like and just say, listen, I have a question, and we'll be happy to help at any time. So yeah, so if there's any other questions about that, or if there's something that's a little bit more personal, feel free to just email us, and then we can sort that out as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great point to make. So we have the entire location. They often have weddings here to kind of give you the sense, and so there's a big main hall with a fireplace where we can eat. I think they could fit like 150 people at a wedding or something in that room. So there's like the big main hall. Then there's a second floor with more of like a classroom type area that we can use. There's the small library where you can sit and read and write. And then the 12 different bedrooms that everyone's going to be in. And they're upstairs on a second level. And so I think you're spot on, Kimberly, that it's an intimate enough environment that you're going to see people, and you can interact if you want, but there's also lots of places to go and write and be private as well. You're not going to be constantly rubbing shoulders with each other or anyone. It's not a huge location, but it's not small by any means at all. It's a fairly large space, and that kind of perfect mix of not too big and not too small, I would say.
Yeah. So you'll have privacy if you want it, and if you want to be more part of the group, you can have that too. So you get the option. That's basically that. And some of the other feedback, not feedback so much as research, when we were doing it earlier, we were seeing that people wanted less structure and a little bit more, sort of free and flowing time to write when you wanted to write. So we've managed to incorporate all that as well. So just so it's very much designed by the 10 people that are coming. So we will be chatting with all of you beforehand and trying to accommodate as much as we can to make it the ideal situation for each individual. And because there's so few of you, we get that opportunity to make it very, very personalized, very customized experience for each person. So yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and even something as simple as genre can determine things, right? If we end up with 8 nonfiction authors, I can curate my teaching one way. If we end up with 12 science fiction authors, it's another. But generally, I work with people in all genres, so my teaching covers that as well. But we're really able to personalize it to the people who are going to be there. So it's going to be amazing. So Deb says this was well created and a great presentation. Thank you. Heather says, thanks for such a comprehensive presentation. And Deb's asking what happens when people on day 5 comes and people don't want to go home.
We all go to Kevin's and just hang out at Kevin's place.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I'm in Ottawa, folks. So, the party just keeps rocking and rolling back at my place. I don't
I'm
think
the
my
only
wife
one
would
who
appreciate that, but, we'll see.
Yeah, I'll be flying back,
Right,
so I have to leave, but everybody else can stay with Kevin.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for hanging out with us this Friday evening. Really appreciate all the interaction in the chat and your attention. As we said, if you have any questions about the retreat at all, don't hesitate to reach out to either of us. Happy to chat with you via email or hop on a Zoom call, whatever we can do to get you on board and joining us on this incredible transformative experience next January. It's really going to be one of a kind. I'm so excited about it. I know Kim is as well, and we would love to have you there hanging out with us and making some real progress on your author career. All right. Have a great evening, everyone. Any final thoughts, Kim?
I just added my email address in there because I have it memorized, but nobody else would necessarily. So it's in there should someone need it. And yeah, feel free to email me or reach out to Kevin and get all your questions answered.
All right. Have a great evening, everyone.
Bye.